Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It is Thursday, May 14th, 11 a.m. in the Morgan. And we want to dispel some of the fable that is surrounding this famous Tulsi Gabbard CIA, MKUltra, JF Kennedy assassination raid and things of that nature. There is a lot of speculation, which there shouldn't be, because it seems to be a very straightforward issue, but there are other things that are occurring around it, which we may want to understand more. And I'm sure the government, what's left of it, the occupational government, would like to keep out of your hands. And hopefully the Trump administration will push forward with anyway. So over the past week, social media exploded, as you know, with the story that sounded like something out of I don't know who's popular. Is Tom Clancy popular? Tom Clancy, the Rainmaker guy, whatever. And the claims were being circulated that the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, had raided the offices of the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and seized sensitive files connected to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, standing president, and the infamous CIA program known as Project MKUltra. You can go look that one up on your own. Now, if true, this would represent one of the most extraordinary intelligence controversies in decades. First and foremost, CIA coming into the office and taking that should have degenerated into a shooting gallery, but that's beside the point. But as always, the real story appears to be a little bit more complicated than the headline, which sounds odd knowing what the headline was, which is CIA raids Tulsi Gabbard's office. Tonight, I think you'll see more information, but we are going to separate what appears to be fact, what remains allegation, and why the mention of MKUltra immediately captured the public's imagination. So we'll begin with what is known. The core of the controversy comes from whistleblower allegations claiming that CIA personnel reclaimed approximately 40 boxes of documents that were under review by a transparency initiative associated with Tulsi Gabbard's office. They call them digs. Good title, right? According to the reports, those boxes allegedly included JFK assassination related material and documents tied to MKUltra era programs. So is it MKUltra or MKUltra era or MKUltra adjacent? But that's the story there. So here's where things become distorted online. The phrase the CIA took back boxes rapidly evolved into, of course, CIA raids DNI office. But as of now, there is no evidence of any armed raid, no warrants, no criminal action, no bunch of tough men walking in. And so no major outlet has that the CIA stormed another government's office. Even lawmakers discussing the issue later clarified that the dispute appeared to involve document custody and classification authority, not some Hollywood-style operation. Still, the story matters, and it matters because it touches on one of the deepest fault lines in American political culture. Who controls government documents once the public has been promised disclosure, right? Like you have with the Epstein file, and everybody just continues on that one. To understand why this has become explosive, we need to revisit the JFK files themselves. After decades of public distrust surrounding the assassination of President Kennedy and the horrible Warren report, Congress passed the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992. The law created a presumption that assassination records would eventually become public unless intelligence agencies could demonstrate legitimate national security reasons to keep portions classified, like they did it, right? That sounds pretty straightforward. But intelligence agencies rarely view historical documents as purely historical. Case in point would be Alan Dulles' memoirs and all of his private papers in the Library of Congress, which you just cannot get access to, even though Dulles has been dead and everybody he dealt with, including the Nazis and the commies and all of his girlfriends are equally in the ground. Look that one up yourself. Even old files can contain operational methods, foreign intelligence relationship, names of assets, institutional details agencies still consider sensitive. And this is why administrations from both parties repeatedly delayed full release. And this is where MKUltra enters the picture. Cue the sinister music. MKUltra has occupied a strange place in American history for decades. For some people, it's shorthand for conspiracy theories because it was kind of strange and kind of far flung. But the reality is more unsettling because MKUltra was real. Incidents like this, I hate to say, sort of prove MKUltra was real. The CIA conducted experiments during the Cold War. I'm going to throw this in for those of you who don't know MKUltra. CIA conducted experiments during the Cold War involving hypnosis, psychoactive drugs, including LSD, behavioral research, interrogation methods, and human experimentation. The program became public during investigations by the Church Committee in the 70s and wound down at some point. At that time, Americans learned something else that became almost as controversial as the program itself. Was the CIA stated that many MKUltra records had already been destroyed, and they seemed to have amnesia about where the rest of them were stored. According to official accounts, then CIA Director Richard Helms, you'll all know him if you know this game at all, ordered the destruction of large quantities of records in 1973. And that single fact planted a seed that never fully disappeared from American culture. Because over the years, additional MKUltra related files keep surfacing anyway. Because of the way it was operated, I guess there were many little cells. And if you were running an illegal anything operation for the CIA inside the borders of the United States, you yourself would also want to keep those documents till after you were dead. It's called an insurance policy. So we've seen financial records, we've seen administrative files, we've seen budget documents, we've had multitudes of interviews with people that were operated with the program, archive material uncovered through Freedom of Information Act requests. So every time someone says new MKUltra related files may still exist, the public reaction is immediately the same thing. People began saying, what else survived? And what exactly did the government tell us was gone forever? So you've got to deal now with an important distinction that needs to be made here. A presidential order to release JFK assassination files does not automatically mean every intelligence document connected to the era becomes public. Okay, that's not, it means everything involving that has JFK, let's kill him, somebody's killing him, who is killing him, stuff like that. That is where the scope ends. Other intelligence documents around that same time, not really. You would have had to ask for them as well, just as you can imagine in any discovery situation. That's where the legal and bureaucratic fight likely begins. If CIA officials believe some of the documents involved unrelated intelligence equities, compartmented programs, or operational material beyond the scope of JFK disclosure law, they could argue those records required a separate review. Like, we were looking for the guy who assassinated JFK, but we found the guy who assassinated Martin Luther King. That's a good, I mean, that's pretty much, you lawyers out there, tell me if that one is a good one. That's a good one, right? And if MKUltra related material was mixed into broader archives, the situation becomes even more sensitive because unlike the JFK files, there is no comprehensive MKUltra Records Act requiring wholesale disclosure. There should be because we committed crimes against the citizens of the United States in the United States by an intelligence force which is not allowed to operate within the United States. But let's not split hairs right now. It's early in the day. That means a president could theoretically order, release all the JFK records. But that does not necessarily equal release all classified intelligence records touching MKUltra. Vice versa, same thing. Those are not automatically the same thing. And this may explain why the story became politically radioactive almost overnight. Uh, to supporters of Tulsi Gabbard, the controversy looks like institutional resistance to transparency, which she is dealing with. If you do not think that Tulsi Gabbard gets up in the morning and wonders what part of the intelligence apparatus may decide to, I don't know, betray her in the country today, you're crazy, because it happens. To defenders of the intelligence community, it may look like ordinary classification procedures being transformed into conspiracy narratives online. But there's another layer here that you should not ignore. The American public no longer automatically trusts institutional secrecy. Decades of revelation, and especially COINTELPRO, the big FBI embarrassment, warrantless surveillance with FISA, covert operations everywhere, intelligence abuses. Once again, FISA always a good where to go. The Russiagate and classified experimentation, which we know has occurred in China with the Wuhan virus. These things have created a permanent suspicion that there is always another hidden layer behind official statements. That distrust did not begin with the internet. The internet simply amplified it. There have been books, conspiracy books for years on all these things, but you had to go to that special bookstore, right? That deals with that. Or my favorite used to be, you'd see a lot of those books at gun shows. Those of you remember old gun shows, not this new jerk off shit, but the old gun shows, there'd always be a guy who had like all those books. He'd have that and the poor man's James Bond and all that kind of junk. And that's where you would find this kind of stuff. At present, there is no confirmed evidence of a CIA raid on the DNI. There are, however, whistleblower allegations, reports that documents were reclaimed. Nobody's come back on that one yet, and signs of a possible conflict over who controls sensitive historic intelligence records. And then, of course, there's the larger unanswered question, which is what exactly was inside of those boxes? You know, were they ordinary classification disputes? Was it a mixed archive? Was it the gun that shot Kennedy? Previously known material, or something more significant tied to programs Americans were told had largely vanished into history decades ago? For now, that question remains unanswered. But one thing is certain, the moment the words JFK Files and MKUltra appear together, that story stopped being just another bureaucratic dispute. It became a reminder that some chapters of Cold War history still cast a very long shadow over modern America. And that is where we stand at the moment. So once again, if you enjoy this stuff, like and subscribe. We're wherever you're watching us, we're there. Plus Substack, plus www.southfloridaconservative.com, where we cover some other issues, or for the longer form, more informative versions of these stories, that would be the spot for them as well. Plus, you can ask questions and make requests at any of these sites. And if we have the time, we will answer and put together articles for you as we can. All right. So that is all for now. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon.